relationships, in their own careers, in their own settings. And so we should give a round of applause to them just telling their story constantly again, and coming to UEL, and we're so happy to have you this evening. I'd like to introduce you to your speaker, Ajira. Did I say it right? Yeah, see, we've been working this all afternoon. I'd like to introduce you to Ajira, who will be your speaker today. She is a TV compere. I said it right? TV compere. But she's also the TV host of Ladies. Yes, Ladies Lounge on Sky 193. So if you haven't tuned in yet, please tune in, right? We need more views means better ratings. And so I want to introduce you to her. She is someone who will introduce our speakers to you. And again, sit back, relax. Thank you for coming to UEL. Thank you for choosing UEL. And we're glad to be a partner in this. Jira?
Another round of applause for him. Welcome once again, and good evening to everyone. And I hope everybody's got something to eat and something to drink, right? Great. My name is Ajiro. I am, like he said, I'm an events compare, a TV host for Ladies Lounge, and also a public speaker. Now, the TV show, it's another great platform to support women, not only women, but everyone. But it's a great platform to support women. So we talk about topical issues of that, that program that deals with family, politics, religion, education, and all the works. So it's really an honor for me to be here with these awesome ladies. I'm gonna call you out, and everybody's gonna see you, but please put your hands together for the reason why we're here this evening. It's great to have all of you here. It's great to be part of this. It's great to know that you are bold enough to come out and say your story. That is something that is worth celebrating. So a lot of us here, I know each and every one of us here have a story. We all have stories to tell. But it's one thing for you to be able to step forward and speak your truth. And that is what you have done. And I know that a lot of us here are going to take away not just one thing, two things, but several things to help us know that we can speak our truth. And we should be bold enough to do that. Because I think out of it births the healing process, births the courage, and births the ability for us to be able to just take on our world and do so many things we want to do and everything we want to do. Because sometimes a lot of things hold us back and we're not sure, but there's that liberty that comes from when you speak your truth, and that's it. So that's the reason why we're here. So without much ado, I want to say thank you all so much for making out time to come here, spend your evening with us, but I want to say a big thank you for being part of this journey. Now these ladies are here and they're from around the world. I had an awesome time with all of you last night, and honestly, my perception has changed because now I might just be going to live in Dubai. You never know. Yes, exactly. So now, how come about that? That is because I sat with them and I learned and I've heard several things. I realized that I am not just meant to be just stationary somewhere. I can affect the world from anywhere, but I'm also free to be global. Yes. I'm also free to travel the world and speak. Now, you ladies have gone to how many countries already? So many, and the journey continues, not over yet. So, I mean, that's awesome. So, and I know that, I think that boldness came from where you're coming from, and you've been able to say your story, right? Great. So, welcome you all once again, and I will be introducing our speakers to be with us here. We have a number of them, but we're going to have three of them first, and then we'll take on the other ladies, okay? I will start with Erica T. Johnson. Erica, have a sit. And I want to welcome Wendy Alexander. And I want to welcome Dr. Princess Fumihana.
Yes. Yours is a little bit. Yeah, she's
I think
chairs here.
I'm just gonna say something quickly about you, just review biography. Now, Erica T. Johnson, of course, she's one of the visionary speakers for this tour. She's the founder of High Pursuit and an Influencers Leadership Institute in an international award-winning visibility and profit strategist, leadership expert, international speaker, and engineering leader who is passionate about helping high-achieving women elevate their visibility and profits in the workplace and in business. And she teaches women, visibility and how to influence, positioning them for greater leadership opportunities through signature trainings, programs, right? And retreats. We talked about the retreat. And she's featured in Success Magazine, several magazines in the US, and the World Report, and World Business Review, and the Network Journal, to just name a few. She's the recipient of the Women Economic Forum India Exceptional Woman of Excellence 2018 Award. And you're going to tell us a story how you came about being part of this, okay? And then Wendy Alexander. Wendy's the reason why I'm going to be going to Dubai. And I already have where I'm going to. I'm just excited about Dubai. All of a sudden, I couldn't sleep last night. I was like, Dubai, yes. Now, Wendy is the founder of Inspiring Decisions and Global Success Society and a cross-cultural consultant of international business strategies. She provides training, business, and solutions and guidance to help entrepreneurs and organizations improve on their businesses, right? And she's gone global as well, having businesses and leaderships from Ghana, Thailand, China, and the Middle East. You see the reason why I say they're global women, right? And she has 20 years of international business development, education, and mental health services to transform the business. And now the reason why I'm taking time to go through this so that we can understand the women who are sitting right in front of us here. I didn't want to do this, but I think we just get to know more about them so that you can talk to them when you're done, and then you're like, oh man, she's part of the mental health advocate. Okay, I can talk to her about that. Okay, Wendy's part of the Forbes Coaches Council. Please put your hands together for Wendy. Now, Dr. Princess Bihada, she's the one who is who put all of this together. She's the one who brought everything, this whole vision together. And she's an African princess living in diaspora and a psychiatric mental health doctor of nurse practice. All right, she's a 12 times best-selling author, publisher, online TV host as well, like me, award-winning filmmaker, and founder of Axe the Web website here. And CHDPMP. You're going to tell me what that means. And the creator of the Fearless Visionaries project. She brings wealth and health to audience by tackling decisions around mental health illnesses, depression, anxiety, suicide, ideation, poor self-image, and disorders. She helps her clients use storytelling on their roads to recovery. She's the first African to speak on TEDx International platform in Saudi Arabia and the first woman recipient of the NAFCA African Oscar in Hollywood, California. Thank you so much for yes. Please absolutely. Now, like I said, there's a reason why I had to say all of that, just to enable you know the kind of women who are in this trip together, who are on this journey together, and how they can help to affect you, and how you can go to them and you can talk to them even more. Now, I'm just going to be asking us some questions. I'm not far from you, honey, am I? It's fine. Feel free to hold the mic. Now, when I first learned about this, I thought, wow. And the first question that came to my head was, how did she get all these people together? That was the first thing that came up. I just thought, how did you know them? Did you handpick them? How did this all come to be?
Well, some of them I already knew. Now, others I had to pray seriously about. And so for me, it was more of really following that inside of me, that strength that says, and also as a filmmaker, there are certain stories that I can see in my mind's eye. And their stories, even though a lot of people did apply to become fearless visionaries, but their stories stood out. Their stories were stories that I felt like people could actually really relate to, and I saw them as stories in films, if that makes sense. So just seeing them like stories in films, and me loving films helped me to say, you know what, this over this, and this over this. And the thing is, the women are also strong. They're people that are ready and willing and ready to do whatever. If I say sit, just sit down, they sit down, you know, because they know that it's coming from a loving heart and it's not coming from somebody who's been spiteful. So it's just been a delight to be working with all of my sisters, because they're all my sisters. We say the power of one and the power of us. And so they're my sisters.
So now this is from America, Saudi Arabia, Ghana. They're from everywhere.
Yes. Yes. I know you're looking like this, like
Yes.
what in the world, how did they do it? Well, they did it. That's the thing. They're ready to tell their stories. Many of them have been silent forever. They've been silent for so long. And now it's just the time and the season. And so when it's the time and the season, you're willing to do whatever it takes. Right? You're willing to do, and it doesn't really matter if you're from Saudi or, you know, and we have a platform, a very secret platform, which we call VIP, where if we have to cry, we cry, right? And nobody looking at us, we'll cry, and then we wipe our tears and keep it moving. So we have that place where we can release ourselves, and I think that's what helps us the most. Because if we just had what you just go out there and do it, without that place, that safe place, I don't think we would have been able to be as successful as we are now. But that safe place helps us to be like, it's a place where we correct each other, it's a place where we love on each other, it's a place where we yell at each other, it's a place where we say, look at, you know, stop it, whatever it is that's going on, you just knock it off now, stop it. So it's a place, a safe place, and I think that's what women and men as a whole, even men, need that safe space that they can come and know that they're not judged. They can just come and tell it like it is, and we can love on them. And when we yell at them, they know it's coming from a place of love and not, you know, hate.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to ask a question from that before I move to the next question. Now, you said something about when it's time, you know it's time. So did you realize that, at what point did you know it was time?
Well, this Fearless Visionary Tear the Veil, the first thing that I did was a documentary last year. So I directed my very first documentary last year, which was called Fearless Visionary, and it was a bunch of other women. And out of that, it became an African Oscar winner, an Indie Festival winner. And so I knew I had something there when it started getting attention. And so it was a question of now sitting back and saying, who are the women that can really back the story, back the whole project up? And these were the women that showed up, you know. Now, let me say this. There were few that I really felt that they were supposed to be part of it, but they had their own little agenda and they went, and now they're looking and looking, I'm like, wow, we never knew it was gonna go this way. So what I'll say to you is, whatever it is that you have been called to do, sit in it a little bit, think about it about not just about you, the impact that you're going to make in the world. And this is what the ladies are doing. Their stories are not just stories. We call it a book of missions. That's what we really do, because it's a book of missions. Everyone has a mission. And so we're here to tell you about our journey in that book of missions. What is our mission? And you're going to hear from our ladies today what the missions are. And I can bet you that there's somebody here that will listen to one mission and say, wow, that's me. So I'm looking forward to hearing back from everybody.
Thank you so very much. I hear persistence here. That's what I hear. Keep it at it, right?
Yes.
I hear persistence. Now, there are a lot of movements. I'm going to direct this question to you. Pretty Wendy?
Thank you.
There are a lot of movements which we know about. There's Me Too, there's Bring Back Our Girls, movements like that. What is different? Why is this movement of Fearless Visionaries, what's going to be that different? Why is it different from the other hashtag movements that has been, going around the media, going around the world, and there's been a lot of, publicity, and there's been a lot of support on those groups. Why is Fearless Visionaries going to be different or similar to those movements?
So just like Dr. Francis Fumi Hancock said, it's a book of missions. It's more about us sharing our story and coming from a place of having experiences. Just like you said, there's always a lot of movements going on. But what we have developed in our group is sisterhood. It was a safe space for us. What I've been able to research from previous groups is that it wasn't formed like ours. The bond that we have is something that I have never ever seen. And for myself, sharing my story, I did snippets because I like to do a lot of live streaming. But once I became a Fearless Visionary, I shared. It was my first time sharing. And I shared on Facebook, okay? But the reason why I did that is because I had my sisters with me, because I had other women who had actually gone through something. And so for me, I felt this sense of security. I'm an only child. So now I have all these sisters that have also experienced this. And even when we're not together, because as you stated, I live in Dubai, but I'm from the US. And so I had to share my story most recently in Dubai. And I can still vision them being there. And it's not just this book of missions, it's not just the book. Like, we are a true family and sisterhood. Like, they travel here, so we can support each other and be together. We cry together, we worry about each other's families. And so it's so much more than just a book. There's nothing compared to what Fearless Visionaries is doing right now.
Thank you so much. Is there something, you talked about the sisterhood. Is that something you're willing to let out, like share? Do you want to give the secret recipe out? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you want to share it because that's something that's keeping you? So is it something you want to share so that other people can say, okay, we like it, I want to be part of it, or is it something you just want to keep? Is it your own thing?
Honestly, I'll be honest with you, it's not really something that you can even just, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a recipe that you can give out. It has to be more about where you come from and who you feel secure with and around, Honestly, I was one of the ones who they'll tell you when she asked, Dr. Princess Fumi Hancock asked me to write the chapter, I was like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to write this chapter because she'd been asking me to write this book. And so I was like, wow, okay. But what people don't realize is that once my sister started writing their chapter and we had to go live in our private group, is that I saw them crying and they were sharing their stories and I was like, oh, this is really deep. What? I must have read the wrong thing. Like,
what are you ready for that?
Why are they sharing? So I had already written my chapter, but my chapter was fluff, right? To be honest. And so I went to Dr. Princess Fumi Hancock and I said, I have something I need to share with you. I said, I need to write more. And so at that moment, because they had shared, right, and that created our sisterhood and our bond, I was able to share because I didn't see the word fearless. All I saw was visionary. The entire time, I only saw the word visionary because I am a visionary. But I didn't realize that the whole time that what I've been going through in my entire life is that I was fearless. Who could get on a plane, honestly, and travel to Dubai and not have a contract, and a person's name was Beer that was going to pick you up from the airport, and you jump on the plane, okay? And so that's what I did. And so even with my story that I share also about 16, 17, I tried to commit suicide 6 times. My 6th time almost took me out. I had a narcissist ex-boyfriend from 16 to 17, and he was very abusive, physically and mentally. From that, he held a gun to my head more than once, and I was able to come out of that, but I didn't share that until I got into the group with them. There was no way. Honestly, if Dr. Princess Fumi Hancock wouldn't have created Fearless Visionaries, I don't know if I would share my story today.
So that story was to have been with you.
it's been, it's been with me since I was 16, 17. And I have 2 children older than that now, okay? Okay. So it's been a long time, so I feel liberated to be able to share that.
We talked about some things yesterday. I wouldn't go into that right now. And both of you may be like, oh, she did that? Yes, she did that. I want to, she's laughing. I want to move over to Erica. Erica, I want you to just say a little bit about your story. Would you be able to do that?
Ooh, yes. Talk a little bit about my story. For me, I actually grew up in a very small town, which was like less than 5,000 people in the U.S. I grew up in Louisiana, if anyone knows where that is. And I found myself being plagued with an attack to silence me. And that attack, the weapon that was used was sexual assault. So for me, at the age of 9, when most girls are worried about, playing with their friends outside, playing makeup, dolls, I was actually being molested by someone that I knew. And that particular instance, I did tell my mom, and I know it stopped, but there was never any further conversations that happened after that. I came from a family where, I grew up in a home where we didn't talk much. We were as girls told to be seen and not to be heard. And so we didn't really talk about conflict. We didn't talk about issues. We just swept everything under the rug or under the carpet. And so that cycle just continued in my life. And so when I was around the age of 12 or 14 in middle school, I was attacked again by my cousin's boyfriend. And again, I told my mom and it stopped, but again, there was no further conversation. And then I found myself at the age of 18 when I went for my first well-woman's appointment, so at the gynecologist, that I was fondled by the doctor. And the nurse was actually present. Of course, wanted to make sure that I was protected. And our particular day when I got home, I literally threw everything in the trash. I was just trying to get to my safe haven, which at the time was my room. I never told my mom about it. I never discussed it with anyone. And then I went off to college. And it was my second year in college as a sophomore at a university. I was studying to be a mechanical engineer. I actually called up one of my cousins to take me to the mall. It was time for me to refresh my wardrobe, get some new things. And she already had plans. She said, I can't take you on Saturday, but I can take you Sunday. I'm going to this concert. Would you like to go? And for me, I was like, okay, I didn't necessarily want to alter her plans, but I was grateful for the invitation. It was a free concert, and I got the VIP treatment. And for a little country girl that grew up with less than 5,000 people, I was very excited. I thought I had won the lottery, struck gold, by having that opportunity of going to this concert, being backstage, the singer, watching him perform. But after the concert, I never knew by me meeting the singer and his friends, and just so happened my cousin's friend was dating the singer, that a crime would be committed that night. Once we got back and we were actually playing games, and there was drinking that was involved, but I ended up being drugged and passing out. So I blacked out, and so I was in and out of consciousness, and I can remember the first time waking up, and I saw where it was like 6 silhouettes that were just lined up against the window, and it was of the men, and they were actually there stroking their genitalia, waiting just for their turn. And I was gang raped that particular night in the hotel room after a concert. And I didn't report it. I didn't go to the authorities and let anybody know what actually had happened. But I struggled with that. I struggled carrying the burden of knowing that my voice had been taken away. So that's my story.
Everyone okay?
Yeah.
When I listened to the stories, when I read through, I was I wanted Erica to share her story was because I know that a lot of people who are out there who want to really hear this. There's one thing reading about it, and there is another thing, you know, like, you know, honey, it's okay. And it's another thing when you really listen to it, when somebody sits down and tells you about it, it's completely different. So, Wendy said something that she didn't see the fear, she only saw the visionaries. Because I think they get to a point where you've gone through a lot of stuff and you're like, oh, okay. When do I move out of this? You know, so at what point did you get to that part of it? Like, I need to move out of this.
Ooh. I don't really think it was that I got to that point until I wrote the chapter this past February. I actually I was wearing a mask the entire time. My history is that I actually worked in mental health and substance abuse, working with teenage girls for years, and so I was able to find therapy, right, and some healing through them by helping and supporting them. But I never shared my story. And so people couldn't understand why I was always getting in trouble with my managers and advocating. They said, you only can go to the house one time. I was a case manager, but I was there every day. You can't go buy anything, and I was buying them things. I was doing everything I wasn't supposed to do because I was feeding my pain, right? I was trying to help someone else. And so when I was able to write the book, the chapter within Fearless Visionaries, like I said, I felt liberated. But I have a little twist to that also. When I was going to the Middle East, I was going to build my business. At least that's what I thought. And so what happened was, that's what you love, yeah. I thought I was going to build my business in the Middle East. I couldn't figure out, why does God keep placing me in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Dubai, Abu Dhabi? Why does he keep doing this? But little did I know is that I found peace and healing in the Middle East. That's where I healed. I shared my story in the Middle East now. I actually wore the hijab, and I also wore the abaya, and where most people would say, you're a Christian. How can you find peace behind the veil? But I did. I wore it proudly. I felt free. It was a moment where I felt like I wasn't being judged. No one cared what I was wearing. I was able to somewhat hide behind it. And so even when I was in Saudi Arabia, you have to wear the abaya. It's changing now. But I decided to wear the hijab, and I wanted to wear the veil. My husband would say to me, you don't have to wear that every time you go out. And I was like, no, I do. But I never shared with my husband. I've been married for 23 years now. My husband just finally found out the entire truth of my story in February, and we've been married for 23 years. But the reason for that is because I was worried. I didn't know what he would think, whether or not he was going to judge me, whether or not he was going to leave me. You got that's just something I was worried about. And of course, it was the opposite. He was like, I would never leave you for that. If anything, it made our marriage stronger. But honestly, I don't think it wasn't a time before I wrote this chapter. Like I said, I don't know if I would have shared, but I'm thankful. I'm so grateful for Dr. Princess Fumi Hancock.
Thank you. I'm sorry, guys. This is not a recorded. We cannot cut and start again. This is real life. Mm-hmm. So we cannot say, okay, cut, dry your tears, put the makeup back on. So we're just gonna take it the way it is. It's real. It's real,
raw, uncut.
Uncut, that's it. When I learned I was gonna do this, I was like, oh my God, it's gonna be hard. I told Progressive, this is gonna be hard for me, but I knew I had to do it. You know why? Because I can resonate with you women. I can resonate with all of you. I resonate with that. And I know that a lot of us here resonate. Okay? So, everybody get your tissues. I know. Oh my God. Princess, the Dr. Princess. We're trying to kind of define your title. What should we call it? Should we call it princess? Should we call it doctor? Or not?
Just call me.
All of it.
Just call me.
At
this point, I'm about to join them in crying. Call me. I will answer it.
You know, we have a lot of students. We have several students here. This is a college. This is a university, so we know that we have a lot of young ladies, young men, people who are going through a lot of stuff. And I was gonna ask, the college life being very, very challenging. You know, it's diverse because, like I said, young men, young women. Now we know the culture. So much is going on the internet, the social media. There's a lot going on. But how do you want to relate the story to the students? What do you want them to take from this experience, from this real life, stories of what has happened to you ladies, or what, we have the other ladies here, they're gonna come and say something. It's amazing because one of our speakers here, her son was actually, accused wrongly, and he was I saw him yesterday and I'm like, he's so gorgeous, so there are different situations. We all went through different situations. It might not be exactly, your story might not be exactly Wendy's story or Fumi's story or Erica's story. It might be your own story, but how do you want the students here, how do you want them to relate with this, and what are they going to take from this?
Here's the thing. When we look at Fearless Visionary, people say, what is Fearless Visionary? We regard it as a lifestyle. It's not just a movement, but it's a lifestyle that we live on a daily basis. And in a lifestyle, you have a man and you have a woman. So with us, we're not a movement of, power to the women. That's not what we're about. Because we also have few men that are actually supporting us. And like you said, you mentioned a case of Florida, who's the complete opposite is the son. So that here she is fighting, losing a whole lot just to keep the son, and it's just, I think a few months ago now that things are just settling, and I don't think the guy, I'm not even sure, by God's grace, he's gonna come over it, but I still think that he's still going to be experiencing the ripple effect. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to strike up a conversation between the men and the women and say, look, we've got to come together and find a solution to this, right? It's not just about us sharing our stories, but it's also about us saying, what kind of conversations can we strike so that we can understand our men better and our men can understand our women better, because frankly, statistics also show that the men that perpetrate this have also been abused. And because they were abused and they never, right, many of them come from silent cultures like myself. And so there's nothing for them to actually, a place that they can go and say, I was sexual, because if they dare to mention it, then that kind of, people look at them like, you call yourself a man. I mean, how could that have happened? So we want this to be a situation where we're coming out and saying, hey, our voices have been quiet for so long. We're sharing our stories, but guess what? We still love our men anyhow. And at the same time, we want our men who have actually been abused before to come out and let's find solutions to this, because this must stop. If we do not stop it, we pass it on. What's been going on is people have been passing it on from generation to generation into generation. Some of us right now are suffering from things that our forefathers did in the secret, and we don't even know, but we just know something's wrong, and we cannot put our finger to it, but we just know that something is wrong. But when we start to strike up the conversation, we can also go back into our own history and find out, because in my own history, and we're talking about African royalty, there was a whole lot of it, right? It was a hush, nobody had to say nothing. So you go back, and then you're able to come forward too now and say, wow, you come forward with that history, and now making sure that your children understand it so they do not pass it on to. So we're saying, let's stop the cycle. Bottom line, let's stop the cycle with men, with women. Let's come together, our hours, and stop the cycle.
Thank you so much. Yes. Erica, your story, I'm asking you this question because I want you to just throw a little light on it, right? What measures can educational institutes put in in place? What measures can they put in place to combat sexual assault and sexual molestation? Because you were in university, you were in uni when it happened. I've got children, they're going to go to uni soon, sometime. And of course, they cannot go to university and shut themselves up. Maybe they might go out, they want to hang like you did innocently, went for a concert, and unfortunately that tragedy happened, that unfortunate incident that happened. So what can we do? We are here sitting talking about this, there's a lot of like workshops and things, sexual abuse, we all know about it, but it cannot be overemphasized, can it? So what can the educational institutes, for the fact that we're right in UEL, what can they do to help, what can we put in place to help to make sure that such things don't happen?
I was actually reading some studies and statistics for here in the UK when it comes to college students and dealing with sexual abuse, and there was something around like 2 out of 5 students are dealing with sexual assault on campus colleges, on college campuses, university campuses. For me, it happened, I was going to one school and I went to the concert at another school. And these schools weren't far from each other, but I can remember the things that I would have loved. Having experienced that was knowing that there was a place that I could go on campus and actually talk to someone. I don't recall, if this happened to me back in 1998, I don't recall there necessarily being like mental health counselors on campus, making themselves available to really hear from students that were struggling with such a situation as sexual assault. I believe for colleges and for university, there's a mandate to make sure that kids and the students that matriculate on your campuses are actually safe, that there's a level of safety there. So making sure that students are aware that, hey, if something of this nature actually happens, this is a place that you can go to. This is a number, that you can call and you can report what has actually taken place. And just being aware, the studies show when it comes to sexual assault happening on college campuses, that it's happening at parties. It's happening in open places where there's actually people around. It's happening where there may be alcohol involved and your judgment may be a bit impaired, such as mine was. So it's, for the universities to make sure, there's never enough awareness when it comes to situations like this. Even in Wendy's case, when it comes to suicide ideation, as well as students dealing with depression, there's never enough awareness. We have to make students understand and be aware that there are resources, that are things put in place, that there's actually too a judicial system that's put in place. When something of this caliber actually happens and things are reported, what actually happens to the aggressors, to the perpetrators that have afflicted, whether it was a male student or a female student, by violating them. And so awareness, just continue to build the awareness, make counselors available for students, and make it where students feel okay, because you have to have that trust a lot of times in order to really share and really be open. And that's why Fearless Visionary has created this community of trust. That's why, women and men come into the community and they share what's going on with them, because we built that trust with them. We're telling them, we're talking to them from a level of, I've been there, this is what I felt, this is probably what you're feeling. And so making sure that, those individuals are individuals who know how to build trust relationships so that those conversations can actually happen.
Thank you so much. Yes, sure. Yes, please. I would love you to. At this point, I hope, are we noting down questions? Please, I would love to have questions. for our panel. No, we're going to come to that. We're going to have a session for that. But I just want us to know that we need to get questions down so we can ask them. Okay? Wendy was going to say something about
I wanted to piggyback off of that as well. For me, I was, like I said, 16, 17. I graduated when I was 17. So that means I was entering college. And so my ex-boyfriend that I was dating, I was actually trying to get away from him. He didn't find out what college I was going to until the day before. I didn't even know I was going to that college. I chose to go to this college to escape him, which was about 4 hours away from my home. And so once I arrived at the university, when you asked that question, I came in with depression, right? So I was depressed. I was running from a situation. I had been getting therapy silently, and I was silently healing is what I call it, because people did not know that I was going to therapy and things like that. But I'm 4 hours away from home. So that means my therapist is where? At my home, right? In my state. My support system is left behind, right? And so once I got to college, just like Erica said, I'm not gonna tell my age either, but there wasn't, where we went to orientation and they said, well, here's mental health services. If you ever feel like you need somebody, this is who you can call. It was more like sign up for this credit card, then here's this party going on. And so even entering into college, I was depressed because I was escaping from him. And what you'll read in my chapter is where he still drove 4 hours to the university to sit outside at night. And he would actually go maybe an hour back just to see what I was doing. And so basically he was still stalking me even though I was trying to escape from him. I didn't have anybody to turn to on the college campus. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know who to trust. And again, like I said, I'm an only child, so then that made it even more, right? Stressful for me. And so for me, I feel like that college campuses, honestly, I do believe in therapy. I 110% do, because I wouldn't have made this far if I didn't. But I think it's also when you talk to people who have gone through something that you've gone through. Because, when a therapist looks at you and says, listen, I understand how you feel, but do you really understand? And do you really know what I've gone through? And do you have a story to share, right? Because if you don't, then you don't understand my pain. So how can you really help me? But I can be able to talk to someone who's gone through that, right? And so for me, I just wish when I was running, when I ran to that university, the thing about it is I didn't even know, I'd never seen the university. I just ran, had no idea what I wanted to major in. I was trying to escape. And so when I landed at that university, it was just, I was there. And then he stalked me after that, and I had to leave that university and run again, which you'll read in the book as other things continue to happen in my life from that. But, like Dr. Prentice Romy Hancock said, if you don't get help and it continues to be a cycle. I have a daughter and I have a son, and I had to stop the cycle, and so I had to share with them the things that were happening. But I think it also comes with, remember when we leave our homes from our mothers and our fathers and we go to the universities, this becomes our family. And they leave us on a college campus saying, you're going to take care of our child, right? And so we have to also put those things in place. I have 2 children. Like I said, she's graduating from college. I probably was the most protective mother there is to make sure that things were on campus, to make sure that I wasn't going to repeat that she wasn't going to repeat the cycle. So it's very important to have mental health services, but it's also important to have people who have had the experience and gone through things to be connected with those therapists. Thank you.
That is awesome. Hey everyone, hope you're writing your questions. I'm gonna, at this point right now, I would love to introduce to you Florida Santana Jonas. Please come over here and speak to her. Please put your hands together for her. I would have loved her to sit down. I want to sit on my seat because I wanted to share your story. The reason why I'm taking it from here is because of your son. So have a seat. Take my seat. It's all right. And just share your story with everyone.
Gosh. My story, I talk about the lie of the hookup culture. And what drives that hookup culture is our need to connect with each other. We all want to connect on some level. We want to belong. touch, we want to communicate, and oftentimes that's leveraged, especially among young people just starting out of college. All right, and I find that we're ill-equipped as young folks, and I'm not saying that you guys are not smart and that you're not ready to learn, but we're leaving home where there's this safety net, and now we're going into a whole new environment with different cultures, different mindsets, and a lot of influences. And that's what happened to my son. So I share my son's story, who on his first year of college went away to college, and his involvement with a young lady led her to kind of include him in a web of lies, that she ended up accusing him of rape. And in the college environment, the college position is to protect the alleged victim. So what happens is that whoever is the quote-unquote victimizer must be removed from the community, and oftentimes arrested, ostracized, and what have you. So the journey was a difficult journey. And so in the chapter, though I share that, what I found the crux of the issue was this hookup culture that oftentimes kids participate in. And there's an underbelly underneath it, because there's the legal system, there's public opinion, and your ability as young folks to cope. So it was tough, and thank God we're on the other side of it. But a lot of it has to do with our need to connect. And so in the story, I share kind of the doors that we leave open as humans. You know, we just want to connect, and not understanding relationships. So the relationship between a man and a woman, and what drives those things. And that's, pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Charisma. Florida. I miss you right now. Okay. I want to introduce Jay. Jay, you're going to come say something. Please put your hands together for Jay Kamara Frederick. I'm putting them out one after another, so everyone to listen to what they have to say, so that you can also get your questions together. And before we go into the question and answer session, all right?
So are you going to ask me a question, or should we just...
No, I want you to share your story.
Hi everybody, thanks for being here. So my chapter is called The Knock-on Effect. And I think for me, it definitely is about exploring and connecting the dots to some of the challenges and experiences which I faced growing up, which included the experience of female genital cutting at the age of 15. If anybody's heard about it, it's also referenced as FGM as well, especially in the UK, or FGMC. And also connecting the dots with having been sexually abused when I was a child for about the best part of, I think, about 11 years, from the age of 3 to 13, 14. And it just tries to connect the dots as to why certain things have happened and the knock-on effect of those experiences that brought me here. So basically, they're having depression, having eating disorders, also suicide attempts where I was actually on hospital watch or doctor watch, my GP watch, where, because I wouldn't take medication for my depression, they had me on watch. So basically I'd have to check in literally every week, and she would phone me on a daily basis to make sure that I was still alive and kicking, basically. And also the knock-on effect of being disconnected from my family, because you want someone to blame but not knowing who to blame, and you also almost feel like a bit like a thorn in the side as well, because you're carrying this real burden that you're trying to protect them from. You're trying to protect your parents or your mum, your brothers, your relatives from the pain that you're going through, because you don't want to seem like a put on the burden onto them. So, but then by the end of the chapter, I feel that I've come to a place of, a place of rage. And the place of rage is that why in the year of 2019, for example, that we are in now, though I wrote a chapter in 2018, that there's still a high prevalence of sexual violence against women and girls, and men as well. And why aren't we raging enough to demand it to stop? Why aren't we tackling it properly? The Me Too movement and Time's Up movement are great, but they do not tackle the knock-on effect that happens. And people are still living in shame, they're still burdened with stigma. And until we really start tackling those issues, we're not gonna, the voice of those who've experienced sexual violence or being violated in any shape, size or form. And when I say violence, it's the whole gamut. I'm not excluding assault as well, because they're equally invasive as well. Okay, it's unfortunate that we have to use all these different terms. At the end of the day, people have been touched without consent. That's the bottom line. And it's just like, until we stop giving more strength to the perpetrators, those who've experienced it will not come out. And those who've experienced it won't be the ones that helped us to end the cycle of shame and stigma. So even as participants, because we're all participants in the human race, we all have an obligation, I feel personally, to rage against this. We should all be asking our colleges, universities, every institution that deals with humans, including our GP services, NHS, everybody, what are they, even our employers, what are they doing to safeguard all of us in the workplace, so that we, if we have been through this kind of experience, or we feel threatened in the workplace, who and where do we go to? If you think about at this point, I've never felt sorry for myself, and I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. These are my life experiences, and I feel at this point now, I've gone through them because for some reason, somebody, the universe, God feels I'm strong enough to be the person to get people to start raging. We have to start raging. Don't feel sorry for survivors, because a lot of us are doing great things in the world. You just don't know what we've been through.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Can I guess you know what's gonna call me? Dr. Evangel.
Eve Angel.
Evangel. That's my microphone, just share.
Thanks.
Okay. I am a wife, a mother of 4 amazing children, and the grandmother of 6. And I'm an instructor, researcher, and a social entrepreneur. And as a social entrepreneur, at the core of everything I do is service. And if you live long enough, you'll know that service requires a lot of us. And whether you are a girl born of sugar and spice and everything nice, or a guy with snips and snails and puppy dog tails, you'll get to a place in life where life just happens. And in that happening, you endure a lot, right? Well, I endured a lot of beautiful colors in my life, but I also endured a lot of shady colors throughout my life. In that process, I dealt with post-traumatic stress disorder, and my name is Dr. Eve, and I considered suicide. On the other side of suicide and evaluation and understanding that I needed help, I was able to get that help and support from the people I love, the people in my community, and most of all, my family. I am a fearless visionary leader. And I realized that regardless of what my colors look like, that my rainbow was enough. And my colors shine on the other side as an instructor, as a researcher, as a mother. Your story, nothing in your life shall ever be wasted. My goal with this story, or our goal, with the mission of Fearless Visionary Leaders, is a message of hope. That it's okay to get help. It's okay. Let's break the stigma and help each other.
Thank you so much. Is everyone ready for the questions?
We also have a trailer.
Yes. Do we have a questions? If you have any questions, just hold them to them. We're going to have a question and answer session. But before then, we're going to have the thriller.
Just get the Internet Explorer on the computer.
I need to get. Oh, she's out.
She's coming. Hey.
Oh, there you are. We're like, woo, okay. What's gonna happen to a thriller? Right on time. Am I looking at anyone?
Oh, we haven't seen it either, so it's a surprise for us.
I'll send it, I can send it. Oh, yeah, I've sent it.
Oh.
Yes, she did it for us.
Yeah, okay. They can see.
Relax and enjoy. Yes? So